Hey there, welcome. You are in a mini course on the 7 steps to writing a grant. And I say mini in quotations because really this is not too mini of a class. We are going to be covering a ton of information, so strap in, get ready to go. Let's do this. All right, so you want to become one of these, right? A grant writing unicorn, which is great because seriously, the world is short of talented grant writers and you are needed more now than ever. So before we jump in, I want to really describe this funding landscape. So first of all, nonprofits, government entities, and the most innovative startups, they need funding. Their traditional fundraising outlets have fundamentally changed. So a lot more attention is on grants now, and that makes it more competitive and therefore all the more imperative that you're focusing on the right grants in the first place so that your application is actually going to get funded, right? Then the way that people are employed is fundamentally changing. There is this big uptick in freelance work. And if you want to be resilient for all of the changes that are ahead in our future of work, we need to be able to have good technical skill sets that are sought after and wanted by employers, but maybe you can also do as a side hustle, right? So the way that the world is working is changing, and this is a really nice niche to get into to kind of set yourself apart and make sure that you always have work no matter what happens to the economy. Okay, then the last piece. Funding is not getting necessarily to the most innovative organizations. And this is something that's being realized by foundations, federal grants, you name it. It's kind of, sometimes people have, organizations haven't figured out how to get grants. And then the most innovative organizations are doing great work and they're not thinking about becoming grant writing experts. And so the money's not getting to them. And a lot of them then are failing or they're not reaching their full potential. And so that realization is real. And so if you can get yourself into this little intersection between those three worlds, that is the sweet spot to be. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, which is all about learning how do you find the right grants to focus on in the first place? And then, of course, how do you write the winning grant application? So this is our promise. So in this mini class, you're going to learn the 7 steps to writing winning grants that we teach in our main grant writing program, and then how you take that to lead a super fulfilling, high impact career that makes your community a much better place. So what you're going to learn. First, you're going to learn how we approach this class, just setting you up for success, the 7 steps to writing a winning grant. Then once you figure that all out, the hurdles that you can anticipate, so just want those on your radar, and then frequently asked questions about our main grant writing program, Grant Writing from Start to Funded. All right, so you are in the right place if, 1, you have been wanting to learn about grants for a while now, but perhaps never knew where to get started. Number 2, you already write grants, or maybe you have a little bit of experience, but you've never received formal training, or you feel like you could be having better processes in place and you just know that you're not quite at the top of your game yet. Or you're curious about turning grant writing into a consulting business or a side hustle, whether that's so you have more lifestyle freedom and you can be home with your family, or perhaps you're retiring and you want to be able to be on the road, still making some income, but it's not, but it's flexible. Right? Or last but not least, it is a part of your job, for better or worse. You better learn how to write grants, and the faster you can learn how to do it right, the less pain and misery that's involved. So whatever it is that's motivating you to show up today, all good. The team here at Learn Grant Writing, we support you. So who is Learn Grant Writing? So our objective and our mission is to modernize how grant writing is taught and amplify the impact that people like yourself have on your community and on your own career. So who's this talking head anyway? I am Meredith Noble, so I'm on the far right of that picture. I'm a grant writer and author, so I've secured about $42 million in grants myself and helped our students secure another $250 million, which is growing every day. So I guess let me just tell you a quick background story so you have some context. So I started grant writing for an engineering firm, and I had pretty much zero experience, but caught on quickly, really loved the work. And so then I actually ended up growing that consulting practice in terms of the funding services arm to 35 professionals. And since leaving, actually the group has continued to grow, which is awesome. So I learned a lot because basically I had these very complicated infrastructure projects and one grant was never enough to cover it all. And so that's how I developed my approach to putting together a funding strategy, which is when you have a roadmap with several grants that you line up like dominoes to pursue. And I multiple times, asked for permission, got it, approved to go get formal training. But my goodness, the options are old school. And so basically I never liked the options, and I decided instead to learn the hard way, which took years of learning and frankly, thousands of dollars of lost grants because I was learning everything the hard way. So I did burn out on consulting, pledged to never do that again, but I did keep getting asked for my expertise. And so I started teaching these grant writing workshops, which were really fun because I really did like to share my knowledge. But my problem with that is that in 1, 2, even a 3-day workshop, our poor little minds just cannot take everything in that you need to know without being able to have the time to put to practice what you've learned. So from there, I was like, there has to be a better way to learn grant writing. So from that was born the concept of this book as, how to write a grant, become a grant writing unicorn, and then more importantly, the online course so that someone can learn at their own time, on their own pace, and actually have the time to put to practice what they've learned. So when I am not thinking, living, breathing grants with my team, I guess I'm mountain biking or I'm skiing, and I live in Valdez, Alaska, where I work remotely. Last random thing, I grew up as a 5th generation cattle rancher in Wyoming, so have a place in my heart for ag. All right, enough about me. So if you have wanted to avoid the stress and basically lost effort and resources of losing grants trying to figure out everything through trial and error, or if you're looking for a way to work that gives you flexibility and so you can have other life priorities and you're just looking for a meaningful career, yeah, you've definitely come to the right place. But I am not going to sugarcoat it. Grant writing is a lot of work. It is not an easy career, right? Like, you have got to put in the effort to master a technical skill and get those results, but we shorten the window it takes to do that measurably. So here are the 7 steps to grant writing. So I'm just going to run through these fast, and then we're going to dive into them in the next video. So we follow our North Star, reading the funding guidelines. You prepare a narrative skeleton, which is an outline to your whole grant application. And then you develop a grant schedule so that you don't run out of time at the end of the project. You host a super rockin' kickoff meeting. Then you develop a budget. So even if you're not a numbers person, we will help you get over your fear with that. Then you prep whatever attachments are required. We're going to be covering 2 that are pretty common, which is a resolution and letters of support. Then you write a really strong narrative, super compelling and concise. And then you submit that bad boy and you celebrate. Now, if you're just like, holy smokes, she just used a bunch of words that I don't even know what she's talking about, I'm a total newbie and beginner to this, please don't freak out. Stick with me. Just get through everything, and then you can always come back and watch it again, and it'll marinate and make a lot of sense. It's a lot of like puzzle pieces that fit together, and so it's important just to like be patient with yourself, and I promise you have learned harder things, right? Like, if you can drive a car, you can figure out grant writing. So word of approach on this course. So I want you to watch the entire thing, like I said, and then you can always come back and reference the materials later. Now, if you don't have a specific project in mind, because I will say that does make it much easier if you have something in mind you want to get funded, whether that's for your organization or a nonprofit that you care about. If you don't, totally cool, probably half of the people that sign up for our course don't. But basically, you might think about, well, who are nonprofits I volunteer with that I could approach and say, hey, I'd like to use something that you need to get funded that's maybe in the $5,000 to $10,000 range as a starter project. No promises, but hey, could I use something that you need to get funded as an example? That's a good method. And then if you were to join our program, we actually can help match you with others that have real projects. So it's fun to get to know your interests. And then you're really working on something that's real, and then the concepts truly solidify. Okay, so before we go there, please take the survey that's next. That's all about your goals, helps us understand what your objectives are, what your fears and concerns are for grant writing, and that really helps us improve the course learning experience. So if you can take that real quick, then we'll roll in to the 7 steps to writing a grant application. I'll see you there.